Welcome, dear viewers, back to the realm of Final Fantasy XIV. We're tackling the next bit of endgame, the only other thing in the game that will reward you with an item level 80 reward. Now, since you've gone through Crystal Tower, you should have some decent item level 80 body piece. You should have an item level 90 weapon from your relic quest, which really leaves a couple accessories. Now, you can't get every item level 80 accessory from this, but you can get a fair number of them. And after this, we're gearing up to 90. So open up that duty finder and queue up for the Minstrel's Ballad, Ultima's Bane. Now for this, I would suggest, if you happen to find a farming party in the party finder, to join into that. Really, there is no reason to do this fight for progression purposes. It is there purely to give you the item level rewards. So you're going to be farming this. Now, you could squeeze out a single win if you wanted to at a lower item level. I, of course, am going into this at item level 90, which is way too high. But you can potentially get a win at a lower item level. However, there's really no reason to simply get a win. You're going to be wanting to farm, and in turn, I would suggest an item level 80 average before going into this. Now, you may think that's high, but it's not really that bad. You should have item level 80 pieces from Crystal Tower, and your 90 weapon, as well as some 90 pieces you can get with mythology tomes. So you're really not that far off. Now, before we get started, of note is this fight is divided up into two major parts. The first part of which is divided up into a couple mini-phases. This is a rehash of the fight with Ultima that you did in the main story, so many of the mechanics may look familiar. But let's go ahead and skip on ahead to when I get that group. Now, though I am going through the duty finder, I would suggest going through the party finder if at all possible. This fight is simple enough, though, that you can still get wins out of the duty finder, and this is probably the last time I'm going to suggest that. It actually took me a couple tries to get a win. As usual, you're greeted with a cutscene. I think there's a setting somewhere that you can set to skip that cutscene, but I'd rather not. Now, of the 8 of us here, we're going to spend a moment getting our crap together. Take a quick look at everybody here. You're starting in the arena that you fought his final phase in the main story, but rest assured you're going to be fighting every part of the Ultima fight that you went through before, which means the 3 mini-phases beforehand deal with the Primals, and then the second half of the fight deals with Ultima himself. Now, since this is a duty party group, you're really not going to win that often. Expect some struggle. You're not going to win every time. Okay, let's try this for reals this time. Now, of note is Ultima does put a debuff on the tank, so the two tanks are going to want to be tank swapping as this fight goes on. Now, of course, I'm going to run straight up and beat on him on his side. Now, the main mechanic you have to worry about in this first phase is that he uses both Garuda and Ifrit. As you saw there, Garuda will do a swiping attack that will hit almost half of the arena. Don't get hit by that. And just before that goes off, Ultima himself will pulse out with Ifrit's pulse. Be very careful where you stand, or that pulse will knock you into Garuda's attack. Now here, you'll see Garuda's Whirlwind get out of the way, and then Titan will hit down in the center. The closer to the center of the arena you are, the more damage you'll take from that. This fight will generally teach you how fast you can dodge abilities, which is really as soon as you see the targets on the ground disappear, you can get out of the way, or you can go into that. The graphic will not hurt you. The instant that graphic on the ground disappears, that is when you are set to get hit by it. Now we've done enough damage to down Garuda, and so we move to the next phase, which is going to be Ifrit and Titan, now that Garuda is gone. And this is the Battle of the Plumes! We'll start with Ifrit's plumes on the outside, followed by Titan's plumes on the inside. If you're melee, you can actually dance back and forth between them very easily. There is also a safe spot right in the middle of Titan's 4 plumes that if you are a mage, you can also stand in. Ifrit's plumes are not so kind. However, you can see there's a couple safe spots around the outside corner of the arena for Titan's plumes. Now that goes Ifrit in the middle, Titan on the outside, and that is it for this phase. That's what you're dealing with. Now, Ultima does have a number of other attacks as you're going. We've also just defeated Titan, which means Ifrit alone is up next, and this is where the fun begins. You see, he will cast Eruption on some of the mages. The mages do have to run around to dodge them. Do not run next to the melee and the tank, or you will kill them. Don't do it! Now, Ulta has a couple other abilities, such as Cerulean Vent, which you saw there. He has a missile attack, which will hit the mages in back. This is the second main attack of the Ifrit phase. You'll see I run off to one side here, and I just wait. Pay attention to where Ifrit is, so you won't get hit by his landslide. You can run directly into the fire. You will not get hurt by it, as long as you're not there when the graphic disappears. Now, technically, normally by this point in the fight, I'm starting to run low on TP, so I actually take that opportunity to run off to the side just to not attack for a second and get some TP back. The eruptions are happening again, so I'm getting the crap out of the way. Of note, very important of note, this entire fight is a DPS race. After the initial pull, the instant you pull Ultima, there is a 10-minute timer going on. When that timer runs out, he will teleport to the center of the arena and start casting Ultima. Now, once you get him down to about halfway, we'll enter the second part of the phase, second part of the fight. The fight changes dramatically at this point. You want to be standing to a point that will knock you to the center of the arena, away from him, where those orbs will spawn. Those orbs are the only real new mechanic that this fight has. When you touch one of the orbs, it will explode. If only one of you is caught in that explosion, it will kill you. You all have to group up and run into it together, so you will all total take very minimal damage. If you don't run into them at all, they will eventually collide in the center and just wipe you. You want to hit the one in the back of the arena and then run to the left to hit the one on the left. This will happen again as the fight goes on. Now, throughout this fight, a lot more is happening here. I apologize, I can't talk that fast. The little bits will show up and start shooting lasers. Kill them as fast as possible. I try to kill at least one before the airships start coming down. There is not only one airship as there was in normal mode, and right here you see 2 coming down. With these 2 airships, the only safe spot is really where the tank is standing, which is a bad idea for anybody else, and the other corner, back corner of the arena. So kill one, dodge the airship's explosions, and then run back in and start beating on the bits again. With the bits done, beat on Ultima again. Now, another attack that Ultima does was the lasers you saw there. There will always be 3 of them, and he will aim them out at the group. So be prepared to dodge that. If you're standing far enough away, you could probably sidestep them easy enough. If you're standing close to him, just run around to one of Ultima's sides, and you should be fine. Now, you just saw him poo a large green orb down on the ground below him. This orb will slowly fall out, chase out of the arena, and chase somebody down. After a time, it will explode, or if it gets to somebody, it will explode. Now, there you see there is actually one additional chain of orbs here. We hit the one in the far back altogether, and then we moved along the left, hit the next one, and then the next one. This does still hurt, make sure you heal to full before any idiot runs into another one. Bits spawn again. Take down the bits. I try to kill one before the airships come down. There are more bits now. They're spread out more as well. When the airships start coming down, you'll be surprised to see that there are, in fact, 4 airships crashing, which is going to be fantastic to dodge. In fact, the safest place that you can be is dead center. Of course, when you are dead center, all of the bits are going to be shooting lasers in the center, so sidestep them as lightly as possible to stay as close to the center as possible. Back to beating up the bits, and then once the bits are done, we're going to go back to beating on Ultima. Holy crap, I think I've got half a second to actually breathe here. It does that a couple times. Now get ready again for Ultima to cast his final burst, which will shoot you back to the far corner of the arena. Now this is the only time, one of very few times in the game, that the tank's limit break is important. You get a level 3 limit break, and as soon as he starts readying that knockback, that one of the tanks will use this limit break. The reason for this is there are now 4 chained orbs. They are all way too close together for you to run into them and heal, and run into the next one and heal, and run into the next one and heal, and run into the next one. It's just not going to work before they crash into each other. They're too close. So once the tank's limit break is active, just plow into them. You'll be taking minimal damage with a level 3 tank limit break. Now, if you want to know for certain that the tank limit break is going, look at the limit gauge in the upper left corner. When not just the little yellow bars are flashing, but the actual container for them, the whole bloody thing is flashing, you are effectively invincible. Crash into that orb. Once you've gotten past that final orb, you're past the last main part of this fight. Now you just have to whittle down what little life he has left and kill him. No new mechanics will be introduced at this point. Kill him before the timer goes off. If memory serves, we kill him right around the 8.5 minute mark, and that means we were all actually very well geared for this fight, and we were doing some pretty substantial damage to him as the fight went on. In normal fights that I've been in, especially when I was doing this to actually get these drops myself, because I needed the drops, we would be dancing the edge of that 10-minute limit almost every time. A few times we've killed him while he was casting Ultima. It's a complicated fight, but it's really not that hard. Good luck.